All right, we're at the Logical Love Meditations Center, and I'll try to keep my head up here. Last couple of vlogs, my head's been kind of down toward the bottom. Just have an open mind. This is the Old Covenant Scriptures. We have missed that quite often. I haven't been consistent. Every Sunday is when we're going to go over the Old Covenant Scriptures, and I have done that in the past, but it's been a while. Anyway, you're going to hear scriptures in a way that you never heard before. Okay, this is not the run-of-the-mill trying to keep up with the Joneses, traditional religious ideas of what the scriptures mean. This is all very spontaneous, and this is about hearing the spirit of truth. I had a comment where the gentleman said, or the person, or I'm not sure who they were, but they said something like that, if you're going to be doing this, you should stick to the scriptures. Well, this is a scriptural meditation, FYI. So, yeah. That's all I've been doing is the scriptures here in my YouTube channel for the time being. I have a little bit of a fly flying around, so just have to bear with it. There is, in Psalms 137, the scriptures are Psalms 137, 138, 139. In 137, there's an interesting thing where, and it's interesting because I've been in the book of Revelation doing vlogs regarding the book of Revelation, and this thing called Mystery Babylon, if you dig deeper in the book of Revelation, you realize that it's the antithesis of religiosity and spirituality. That the Mystery Babylon is a spiritual center. And so the actual Babylon also had a lot of spiritual type activity. And Babylon was a dominating force, both in a religious and spiritual realm, as well as every other realm. It was the big thing in the world. And so they were taken captive, and in that captivity, they were asked to sing the songs of Zion. And they talked about, the book of Revelation talks about torment day and night. They talked about this torment that they were experiencing in the Babylonian system. And it's quite fascinating because in captivity, they would dream about Zion. They would dream about the freedom of Zion. Now, I'm not talking about the political nonsense out there about all this stuff, and I'm not trying to diminish anyone, but this is not a political take about, because we hear these political labels. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the city of God. What is that song? There's a song. It's really beautiful. In Mount Zion are the sides of the north, the city of the great King. Great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness, beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great King. So the interesting comparison in the book of Revelation, which reveals to us the New Jerusalem, and Paul talks about Mount Zion versus Mount Sinai. Mount Zion is the fulfillment of let us make man in our image and our likeness. It's the city of God, but this city is actually a people. It's a people. It's not a literal city. So there are apologists out there for the book of Revelation talking about an actual city coming from outer space. Well, if you look at the dimensions of that city, it doesn't fit anywhere on Earth anywhere. How can you fit it? Have to do a big demolition project around the world just to fit it. It just doesn't fit anywhere. The dimensions are spiritual. It's a spiritual conversation. It's a spiritual message. It's not about a literal city. And this city apparently is the bride, the beloved. Zion is the beloved. Zion is the freedom of the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, we're living and moving in the glory and the power of our original divine organic design. And so the Psalms 137 is about kind of a sadness, because things have changed and they're in captivity, and now they're trying to ask them to be all happy and spiritual in the midst of captivity. Well, this, in the religious centers of our day in churchianity, there's some of that going on as well. And there was a outpouring, substantial outpouring back in 1948. And what I mean is that there was a certain glory that came on different churches all around the world in 1948. And some of this is documented. When I was probably 5-6 years old, let's say, when I was real little, I remember going to, 11, when I was 11 years old. Was it when I was 11? Oh boy. Well, I remember going to a church service, and me and my dad had a conversation about certain ones that were in this church. Probably when I was 11. There were people there that soon were not there. So I don't know anything about that. But my dad and I had a conversation about people who were kind of from a different era and from a different glory. And it was a substantial glory. It was like I remember 11 years old going into a church service, and I hadn't been in church for 5 years, long story short. And I remember just looking up on the stage, and it was like I was looking at angels. There was such a glow and such a glory in these people, it's hard to describe. That anointed presence of love, of the Father, of the glory, of love, and it was like Zion, a little bit of Zion, a little bit of the house of God. Like Jacob said, your house is here. And it was like something where there was a heaven on earth happening in there. And I just felt it so strong. Now, this is what happened. I went to church with my mom, and we're doing Spontaneous Mondays, so some of this might come out as well tomorrow. But I'm in church with my mom, and I was an emissary of divine light, in my opinion, because my father had been. So my dad and I had a conversation about how it's changed, how people there used to be this kind of angelic glory on them, and where they all go. And so my dad stopped going to church altogether. But I was in church because my mom invited me, and I don't know why I went, but I felt this presence of love, this glory that I very rarely have felt in a church setting. And this will get too long if I start going into all those kind of details, but in the end, I got into the back seat of the car when we left, and my mom asked me, "What did you think of the service?" Now, this is a true story. I'm telling you, God's honest truth. Okay. In my mind, the thoughts of my mind. We move on our brain. Our brain activity moves our body and everything. Our words. In my mind, I was thinking, well, Christians are nice people, Mom, because my dad had said that many times, tucking us in at night, proselytizing us to not be Christians, Christians are nice people, Mom, but I'm an emissary of divine light, like my dad. And that's what I was thinking to say. I was about 11 years old. And then I heard myself say, "Mom, I feel so free." And I'm like, who said that? Oh, I said that. This is a true story. I'm like, huh? So I stopped and I said, "Okay, wait. Say it right." Good. You feel free? And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to tell her, I think Christians are nice people, but I'm an emissary of divine light like my dad. So, yeah. Opened my mouth to say that, and words came out of my mouth. "Mom, I feel so free." I didn't know this was going to happen. I would feel that. It's interesting because if you read Psalms 137, it's like I'm feeling. There's a longing for Mount Zion. Churches everywhere have their people captive saying, sing to us. Sing the songs of Zion. And yet, if you know the scriptures at all, around the time of Samuel, there's a thing called Ichabod. The glory is not there. Come out. We have to come out of her. The book of Revelation reveals this bestial system that plays religious games and keeps the people of God captive. And they are not walking in the spirit of truth in revelation, but in dead doctrines. And it must come to an end. And in Psalms 138, it talks about some of this thing shifting around. And we just read in the book of Revelation, the King of Kings. He's the King of Kings and the Master of Masters. And we see this king in Psalms 138 dealing with the kings of the earth. That's realms of authority, spiritual authority, natural authority, all kinds of different realms and dominions, where the kingdoms of this world are becoming the kingdoms of our Lord and his Christ. Psalms 138 and Psalms 139 is a beautiful thing, because in the Sermon on the Mount, when when Jesus starts talking about the Father knowing where a sparrow lands, and if a sparrow, he knows when one sparrow falls, how much more important you are. So in Psalms 139, of course, it's a very famous psalm where his a number of thoughts he has towards me are innumerable, and how he knows my ways, and he knows what I'm going to say before I say it, and this intimacy and this love. Like, this is a king that's worthy of your honor, worthy of praise because of his glory, and he's the King of love. Saying, let's describe this king when it comes to me. It's like at the end of Psalm 139, it's like trying to convince this king, to have a certain philosophy about his enemies. But the primary thing there was, you're so intimate. You're so close to me. You're so much love. You're so much worth laying my life down for, and allowing all that you are to become all that I am. And so Psalms 137, 138, 139. The glory of Zion. I'm not talking politically. I'm talking about the glory of the spirit of revelation, of truth in Christ. But it's a glory that religion cannot contain and will not contain. I'm talking about I'm not talking about charismatic or any certain move, or the ones that dance, or the ones that do this or that. I'm not talking about a specific flow that we've invented as men and become. So it's the traditions. You can still have the form of these things that happen in these great outpourings of the Master's love and the spirit of truth and love, but it was never about the form or what it looked like. It was always about an inner place of the heart. His kingdom of heaven is within. It's being established within. We are his workmanship. We reveal his glory in whatever manner that reveals his glory. Yet traditions have always said, well, we have to reveal his glory in a certain way. But we never bothered to ask the glory. All right, I have to go. Well, bye.